Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining in. Right now, this should be people that are in my secondary 1H classes. That would again be periods 1, 2, 4, and 5. This is for the week of April 20th through the 24th. And this week, we are going to do sections 12.2 and 12.3. And this is going to be it for chapter 12. I'm only going to cover just these two sections, and then we're going to go back and catch some main concepts from earlier chapters. So this week, again, 12.2, 12.3. I'm going to go through the computer with you guys and some of the ways we can look at that. And then I'll come back to the whiteboard and we'll do a problem or two with that and give you your assignment. And that should be it for this week. You can go to your ebook. And from your ebook, you're going to go to page 596. And this is the start of section 12.2. 12.2 deals with congruent figures. We are mainly going to deal with congruent triangles. So triangles are congruent, and you'll notice this study tip off to the left here, really nice. If two triangles are congruent, then all their corresponding parts are congruent. If corresponding parts of a triangle are congruent, then the two triangles are congruent. So congruent triangles mean exact same shape, same size, their corresponding parts, which mean their corresponding angles and corresponding sides match up. They show you this right here with these two guys. They color-coded even for you, very nice. They show you that you can describe it in different ways. As long as the order matches up, you are fine. Then example 1, they walk you through another one here. Again, you have your tutorial button there. Click on that if you need to walk through that one. Okay, if you go to page 597, it walks you through another one. Notice these congruent figures, obviously they're not triangles, they're quadrilaterals. Again, there's a tutorial for that if you need. Go down here to the monitoring progress. 3 other problems here for you on these. Really nice ones. Again, check out the tutorials if you need to. 598, it gives you a theorem on the top here. It's the third angles theorem. And this one, you're going to use this one a little bit for this section, and it deals with the fact that every triangle, remember, it has to add up to 180. The interior angles, the triangle angle sum theorem, any triangle adds up to 180. So if you think about this, if angle B matches with angle E, and angle A is congruent to angle D, that means that C and F have to be congruent. For example, if you said that angle A was 45 degrees, and angle B was 100 degrees, so you have 45 and 100. Well, that means this has to be 45 and 100. That leaves you no choice. You'd have to have 35 degrees for C and 35 degrees for F. So again, that one is called the third angles theorem. They give you a couple examples there, 4 and 5 with that. 5 is kind of a proof of that, but again, check out that tutorial with that one. Same thing with 4 and 5. Then we get to page 599, which is your actual assignment. This is where I'm going to assign the first, let's see, we're looking at the first 14 problems here. I'm going to assign all these, but it should be very, very straightforward for you guys. And probably pick 1 or 2 from this page. And again, that will be your assignment 12.2. Also this week, we have 12.3. So I went to page 602. Now, 12.3 deals specifically with congruent triangles. Not only that, but remember, for two triangles to be congruent, all of their corresponding parts had to match up. There are shortcuts. The side angle side is basically a shortcut to prove two triangles congruent. Instead of having to get all 6 parts to match up, the 3 angles and the 3 sides, if you can get it in the order of side, angle, side. And notice this, the crucial part with 12.3, side, angle, side, is you'll notice the angle is included or in between the 2 sides. So for this one, angle A is in between those 2 sides, AB and AC. In this triangle, angle D is in between ED and FD. So these are both of the included angles, which means if you trace this out, you'd have side angle side and side angle side. Those two triangles would be congruent. because of, again, the side angle side congruence theorem. It walks you through this, so take a look at that page. It's really good there, all that. Then they give you a proof using side angle side, which again, I'm going to give you a couple of those. And here's a tutorial for this one, so I don't want to take up time with this. You can catch that tutorial on your own. Also down here, 1 and 2 on the monitoring progress. Same thing, check those out. If I go to that next page, page 604, do not worry about the constructions or this example here, guys, for this one. Okay? Do not worry about that. I am going to go to page 605, which has the actual assignment on it. And what I'm going to assign for you guys are the first 14 problems. And you'll notice on this, it's asking like, decide whether there's enough information to prove. So remember, you're looking for specifically side angle side, and it has to be in that order. There's also 4 proofs here. I'm going to assign 2 of these, and I'm going to walk you through problem 15 right here. And I'm also going to do a couple of the side angle side type to see if the triangles are congruent on the whiteboard, and that should help you guys with this assignment for this week. All right, so here we are. We are going to take a look at problem number 15. 15 looks like this. So we've got a proof. Remember, with a proof, you've got given information, what you're trying to prove, statements, reasons, and the picture. So for this one, it's given that PQ, so this segment right here, PQ bisects angle SPT. So SPT is this angle up at the top here. So PQ rather is bisecting that angle. And it's also given that SP is congruent to TP. This segment congruent to this segment. We are trying to prove that these 2 triangles, SPQ and TPQ, are congruent. In order to do that, we're going to do our 2 columns here. The first statement, remember, is always all of the given. So I've written the given down here. Also on your picture, you're going to make SP congruent to TP. So with the picture, I could make that on the markings here. SP congruent to TP, put 1/ there. So right now, if we're looking at this, right now we have one side congruent to one side. We need a side angle side for this one though. So if you look at this, you should usually get something from the picture. So on this one, from the picture, if you'll notice this, PQ is part of both triangles. It's part of triangle SPQ, and it's part of triangle TPQ. So I can say on this then, that our statement 2 here could be that PQ is congruent to PQ. But we've got to actually state that. So PQ congruent to PQ, the reason for that, remember, when something's congruent to itself, that is the reflexive property. Okay. And if I mark that on the picture, I'm going to mark that with 2 slashes here. So now I have 2 sides of one triangle to match up with 2 sides of another. Well, I've gotten everything I can from the picture. Remember what I taught you earlier this year was you're going to use everything you get from the given. So on this one, we're also given that PQ bisects angle SPT. So what does that actually mean? Well, if you look at the picture, PQ bisecting SPT, to bisect that angle means it's going to cut it right in half. So that means that this angle SPT is going to get split into 2 congruent angles. That means that SPQ, that angle, is going to have to be congruent to angle TPQ. So I'm going to state that for my reason number 3 would be angle SPQ is congruent to angle TPQ. Oops, not TR, TPQ. Here we go, TPQ. Now, the reason for that is, so our reason for number 3 would be, since that bisected that angle, this one is the definition of an angle bisector. Remember, we had angle bisectors, we have segment bisectors. This one is specifically an angle bisector because PQ is bisecting that angle. So now if you look at the picture, these two triangles are congruent. Why? Because we have a side. Notice the included angle on the side. This angle is in between these two sides. This angle is in between these two sides. So it's a side angle side, side angle side. So our fourth statement would be, well, it is we're trying to prove. In this case, we're trying to prove that angle or triangle SPQ is congruent to triangle TPQ. And again, the reason for this guy would be side angle side. Side angle side. And this proof, again, just took us 4 steps. Remember, proofs can be 3 steps, 4 steps, 5 steps, whatever, number of steps there are that takes it to get that. But hopefully this helps out with number 15. Let me give you guys a couple examples for getting triangles congruent by side angle side. And if you have enough information to do that. So for this one, if we look at example 1, and I just, made these problems up for you guys, but this should help you with some of the problems on the assignment. So example 1 here, you're looking at these two triangles. Do we have enough to get triangles congruent? Well, on this one, there's something that you should know that's not actually marked in the picture, and that is that BD is congruent to itself. Again, reflexive property, it's part of both. So again, I could make and draw in the two marks there, indicating those two are congruent. Now, if we look at this, we have our side angle side. Notice again how this angle is in between these two sides or included. This angle is included between those two sides. For this one, we would have triangle ABD congruent to triangle. Now you got to get the right order. So if I go A to B to D, notice I'm going through the 1 mark to the angle, would be congruent to triangle CDB by side angle side. Okay, if we take a look at example 2, it's basically the same picture, however, it's different given information for you guys. On this one, if we look at it, again, we know that BD is congruent to itself reflexive. But on this one, you're going to notice that the angle right here is not the included angle. It is not in between these two sides. This one would go side, side angle. So for this one, these two triangles, we're not going to be able to get congruent. It is the wrong order. This angle right here would have had to have been up here in order to have a side angle side. So the way this one is drawn out, you'd have no congruent. Not possible. All right, congratulations if you've made it this far. We are going to do our last example here with this one. Example number 4. For this one, again, remember with these, you need to look at these pictures and mark anything that is not marked that is actually there. If you look at these two triangles, you have vertical angles. Angle ABC is congruent to angle DBE, so I'm going to mark that up. Vertical angles are congruent. Now, if we look at these, we have a side angle congruent to a side angle. That is not the same thing as side angle side. So if it were given what on example 4 here, the answer to this would be not possible. Let me do an example number 5, and all I'm going to do on this one, guys, is I'm going to just change one thing with this. So if I took this and in the very beginning of this problem looked like this instead, so the verticals would not be marked here, but instead it were like this, and the question were, do you have triangles congruent? The answer would be yes. Because, again, you have your vertical angles here in the middle. But notice this. You'd have a side angle side congruent to a side angle side. So for this one, you would have triangle ABC congruent to triangle DBE. Why? Because of side angle side. You'll also notice that this would also be a reflection. If I reflected this over, it would match up. Hopefully this helps you guys with all of the material you have for this week. Thanks for tuning in. See you next week.